Hey guys, okay, we are going to get started on chapter 7. little dated here. I apologize ahead of time for the blunders on this video. We're actually on the study guide. So volume of a cylinder, we're going to start off with that it's pi times our radius squared, then times the height. So what we want to figure out is we want to figure out what our radius is. So if this is 11, that would be our diameter. Our radius is half of that, so 5.5. And our height, remember that's the distance between our two bases. And since both our bases are circles, our height is going to be 8. So I'm going to do pi times 5.5 squared, then times my height, which is 8. So I'm going to be using 3.14 for pi and just kind of go from there. So I'm just writing because I've already done the work. Squaring 5.5 is 30.25 and then times 8. All right, and now I'll multiply these two and I'll get 94.985 times 8, and I will get my volume, which is approximately 759.88, and I'll just say units cubed. Okay, so remember guys, I am going to provide the formulas for you for volume. You just need to know how to work everything. All right, this is the first blunder. Right here, our height is actually equal to 14 centimeters. And our radius, which they didn't give us either, got cut off in this version that I made a copy of, is going to be 9 centimeters. So volume of a cone is equal to pi times your radius squared times your height. So just like the volume, but we divide it by 3 because it's almost like they've taken a third here away and they've taken a third here away from the cylinder. All right, so we are going to do pi times 9 squared times 14, which is our height. And then we'll divide it by 3. So I get pi times 81 times 14, all divided by 3, which is 1134. 81 times 14 times 3.14, or pi, and then divide by 3, where I get 111. No, can't read my own writing. 1,186.92 centimeters cubed. Okay, moving along to the volume of a rectangular prism. Well, that one is length times width times height. So we're simply going to just do, well, it would be nice if we knew the measurements. So this side we're going to say is 8. This is 23. And this is 14. They're all centimeters. So we are going to do 8 times 23 times 14, which 8 times 23 is 184. And then we multiply it by 14, and we get our volume, which is 2,576 centimeters cubed. And that's our first page. Let's move along to our next one. Hopefully, I keep everything where you can see it. Okay, so this one is a bit tricky because remember, identifying our bases is part of the problem. Just knowing what formula to use. So volume is equal to big B times your height, which big B, remember, is the area of the base. So we need to know what shape our bases are. They need 2 identical ones. And the distance between them, that's your height. So big B stands for area of your base. All right, and then the shape of our base, big B, is a triangle. So remember, the area of a triangle is equal to your base times your height and divided by 2. Base and height of this shape. Let's not forget that the height of the actual prism is equal to 20 units, we'll just say. So height of prism equals 20. What we need here is we know this side is 14. We know this side is 5.5. We need the actual height of our base. So we need this measure right here. This, another blender, is a right angle. We are going to use the Pythagorean Theorem, your guys' favorite equation. So x squared plus 5.5 squared equals 14 squared. All right, again, I've already done the calculation, so I'm just going to write these in here. 5 squared is 30.25, and 14 squared is 196. All right, I'm going to subtract 30.25 from both sides. I'll get x squared equals 165.75. And then, of course, I've got to take the square root to get x by itself. So x, or the height of my triangular base, is going to be equal to 12.87. So now I'm going to find the area of the triangle, which is going to be 12.87 times 5.5 and then divide it by 2, which will give me 35.39. Now remember, volume is equal to the area of the base, which we just found, big B, and then times your height, so the distance between the two. So we're going to take this base, 35.39, and multiply it by our height, which is 20. And we will get 707.8. Okay, well, down here, this is where things get a little bit tricky. All right, remember that volume is equal to the area of your base times your height of your prism. So first things first, right here, this is the height of our prism, and it's 18 inches, which is hard to see. One of the sides of this prism right here is 12 inches. Okay, so first things first, the shape of our base is an octagon. And that, to find the area of that, is going to be your apothem times your perimeter divided by 2. So to find the area of our base, which is an octagon, we need our apothem, our perimeter, and to divide it by 2. The height of the prism or the distance between the two bases is equal to 18 inches. So first things first, we need our apothem and we need our perimeter. Well, I know that there's 8 sides, right? And so to find my perimeter, I'm going to do 8 times 12, and I'm going to get 96. So 8 sides times 12, the measure of each side, and I get 96. Now I just need to find my apothem. So remember, we're going to take 360, we're going to divide it by 8, and that will give us 45. But we need to divide that by 2, and that's going to give us 22.5. So I know that this little angle is 22.5. I know that this portion is half the side. That's equal to 6, right? Because the apothem comes down and cuts the side in half, right? So I'm going to put my googly eyes here. This is my opposite. This is my adjacent, what I also want to solve for. And I'm going to solve for my apothem. It's an O and an A. So I'm going to say tangent 22.5 equals my opposite, 6 over my adjacent, which I'm calling x. Remember the little shortcut I told you? When x is on the bottom, you can simply have these two swap places. So we're going to say x equals 6 divided by tangent 22.5. All right, and then when we do that, we will get 14.49. So now I have my apothem. I'm going to go ahead and write that, 14.49. And now I'm going to figure out my area. All right, so it's going to be equal to 14.49 times my perimeter, 96, and I'll divide it by 2. When I do that, I get 695.5, or 552, which is also the area of my base. So 695.52. And now I can figure out my volume because I take the area of my base, 695.52, and I multiply it by my height, which is 18. And I get my volume, which is 12,519.36. Ooh, that's a big one. Okay, so moving along, we got to find the volume of the pyramid shown below. So volume is going to be equal to the area of your base. All right, well, that's a nice looking base, times your height divided by 3. All right, so the area of my base is a square in shape, right? 8, that would be 8, that would be 8. So big B is going to be equal to 8 squared, which is 64. My height is nice. It's just given to me right here, which is 10. So for volume, we're going to do 64 times 10 and divide it by 3, which is 640 divided by 3, which will give us 213.33 inches cubed. Not too bad, right? Especially when you have the formulas in front of you. Okay, so find the volume of the sphere. Well, volume is equal to 4 times pi times your radius. Oh, shoot. Cubed. Okay, so cubed all divided by 3. And I had a brain fart and forgot that it was cubed, so I squared it in my original work. Anyhow, let's do this. So we're going to plug everything for pi times our radius. Well, our diameter is 9, so we know that our radius is going to be equal to 4.5. That's going to be cubed, and all divided by 3. So let's start by cubing 4.5. So 4 pi, and then 4.5 cubed is 91.25, and we'll divide it by 3. Okay, so next up, we're just going to multiply the 4 and the 91.25, which is going to give us 364.5. And then we're going to switch pi to 3.14, and we'll divide by 3. Okay, so let's multiply these top two. We'll get 1,144.53, all divided by 3. And when we finally divide it by 3, we get 381.51 meters cubed. Okie doke, not too bad. Okay, so it says a classroom globe has a volume of 288. Well, I was actually on that question. And then our unit of measurement is lost. This is what happens when we go from Word to Google Docs. Just things get a bit wonky. What's the diameter of the globe? So first we're going to start with the formula for volume, which is going to be 4 pi, our radius cubed, all divided by 3. We're going to take that formula 4 pi r cubed divided by 3 and set it equal to 288, our actual volume. We need to get rid of this 3, so we're going to multiply, undo it because it's dividing, so we're going to do the opposite and multiply both sides by 3. All right, that's going to give us 4 pi r cubed equals 864. All right, next up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify this a little bit. I'm going to do 4 times 3.14, just so I can get rid of the pi symbol. R cubed equals 864. Okay, so those multiplied are 12.56 r cubed equals 864. So all I did was multiply 4 times pi. And now I'm going to divide by 1256, divide by 1256, and I'm going to get r cubed equals approximately 4.1. I mean, not 4.1, sorry. That's going to be my answer for r. So we spent the day at Disneyland yesterday, and it was 102 degrees at one point. So I'm a little hot and tired today. Still hot. I'm not even sure how I'm still hot. Anyways, r cubed is 68.79. Now we take the cube root and the cube root, and we get r equals 4.1. But it's asking for the diameter. So the diameter is twice as big as the radius. So we're going to take 2 and multiply it by 4.1, which will give us 8.2. Okay, moving right along. If the volume of a cylinder is equal to 452 pi centimeters cubed and the height is equal to 12 centimeters, solve for the radius of the cylinder. So I'm going to write the formula for the volume of a cylinder. Well, its base is a circle, so pi r squared, and then times the height. So I'm going to do pi r squared times, remember they give us the height here, they tell us it's 12. So times 12 and set it equal to the volume. So 1452 pi. First thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and get rid of the pi. So I'm going to divide by pi and divide by pi. Okay, I'm going to have r squared times 12 equals 1452. I got rid of the pi. And now I'm going to divide by 12 and divide by 12 to start getting r by itself. So r squared is going to be equal to 121. 452 divided by 12 is 121. Now we'll take the square root and we will get r is equal to 11. Okay, let's look here. Erica made 2 candles in the shape of rectangular prisms. That's kind of a fun shaped candle. The first candle is 12 centimeters high. So let's say this is candle number 1. 13 centimeters, or 3 centimeters long, and 7 centimeters wide. The second candle is 5 centimeters higher. So 12 plus 5 would be 17. This one's 17, but has the same length and width. Okay, how much additional wax was needed to make the taller candle? Let's go ahead and do cylinder 1. I mean, not cylinder, candle 1. So candle 1, volume is equal, it's a rectangular prism, to length times width times height. So we're going to do 3 times 7 times 12, and we'll get 252. Okay, for candle number 2, we're going to do length, or volume again is equal to length times width times height. So we're going to do 3 times 7 times 17. which is going to give us 357. So what we want to do is we want to find the additional wax. And we're going to take that bigger candle's volume, 357, and we're going to subtract the volume of the smaller candle to find the difference. So 252. And that gives us 105. So we're going to need about 105 centimeters cubed of wax, probably liquid wax. Okay, so moving right along, find the volume of the figure below. All right, I'm going to call this figure 1, and this is going to be figure 2. This first one is a cone. All right, and if we remember that the volume of a cone is equal to pi r squared times the height divided by 3. So if you look here, these are matching, right? The tops and the bottoms. So my radius down here is 9, which means it's also 9 here. So I'm going to do pi times 9 squared, and then the height is given to me. So times 12, all divided by 3. All right, that's going to be pi times 81 times 12 divided by 3, which when I multiply all those together, I get 3052.08 all over 3. And then when I divide it, I get 1017.36. Okay, so this is the volume of the top one. Now I'm going to do the cylinder. If I could spell. Okay, so volume is equal to pi r squared times the height. All right, well, we already know that our radius is equal to 9, so we're going to have pi times 9 squared, and then the height of this figure is a little different. It's 15, so times 15. All right, well, that's going to be pi times 81 times 15. Then I'm going to multiply them all together, and I am going to get 3,815.1. Now I need the total volume, so I just get to add those together, which when I add them together is 4,832.46. Okie doke. Another one pretty similar, but this one I think is a little friendlier because what is the shape of the base? It's a square, even though it kind of looks like a rectangle. So I'm going to say that this is figure 1 and this is figure 2. I'm switching them up this time. So for figure 1, it is a cube, right? 10 by 10 by 10. So volume is going to be length times width times height, which is going to be equal to 10 times 10 times 10, which will be 1,000. Okay, then the volume of figure 2, well, it's a pyramid, right? So that is going to be equal to your base. Volume is equal to your base times your height times 3. Well, we're lucky here. Our base is nice and friendly. Big B is a square, so that's simply 10 times 10, which is 100. So we're going to do 100 and then times our height, which they so nicely gave to us, 13, and all divided by 3. So we have 1,300, and we're going to divide it by 3, which gives us 433.33. And again, we get to add them together. So the area here and the area here, we add them together. I mean, not area, volume, to get 1,433.33, and those are meters cubed. Okay, So here's where things just start to get a little tricky. You just need to pay attention. Cylinder A is similar to cylinder B. Boom, we know they're cylinder, but similar. Similar cylinders. Um, cylinder A has a radius equal to 8, and cylinder B has a radius equal to 15. If the surface area of cylinder A is 312, what's the surface area of cylinder B? All right, so they give us a linear measurement, A over B, and it's equal to 8 over 15. But they want us to compare it to surface area. And remember, that's A squared over B squared. So we're going to have to square these, which 8 squared is 64, 15 squared is 225. Okay, and they give us the surface area of the top cylinder, cylinder A. So 64 over 225. Check and see if they can reduce. These cannot. And then we're going to put 312 over x on top. Now we're simply going to cross multiply. So 64x equals 70,200. We'll divide by 64. We'll divide by 64. And we will get the surface area of cylinder B as 1,096.88. Our surface area ratio was when we took our regular scale factor and squared it, which was 64 to 225. All right. If the scale factor of two similar pyramids, so our A to B is simply 4 to 9, what is the surface area ratio and the volume ratio? So remember, surface area is squared, which means we're going to square 4 and 9. So surface area is going to be 16 and 81. And the volume ratio, remember, is cubed. So B cubed, which would be 4 cubed over 9 cubed, which is a bit bigger. 64 to 729. Okay, solid A is similar to solid B. If the surface area of solid A, so we know that we're dealing with surface area, is equal to 125, and the surface area of B is 245, find the volume of A. So volume, we want A if the volume of B is 965. Okay, so first things first, we want scale factor. Just plain old, Jane old scale factor. Here, first thing you're going to do is you're going to see if they can reduce. They do reduce. It becomes 25 over 49. And then because they're squared, to get the scale factor, you have to take the square root. So the square root of 25 is 5. The square root of 49 is 7. Okay, now we're talking volume. So that means we need to cube it. We're going to do 5 cubed over 7 cubed. And that's going to give us 125 over 343. Okay, we cross multiply, we get some big numbers. So 125 times 965 is 120625 equals 343x. Oh, it's sorry, I'm moving my paper around too much. Now we divide by 343 and we get x, or the volume of A, is equal to 351.68. Okay, everybody's favorite, factoring. Look for a GCF. No GCF. Is there a term in front? Oh, yes, there is. Okay, well, we're simply going to just do an X factor then. So middle brother comes to the bottom, and 36 goes to the top. What multiplies to 36 but then adds to 12? Well, that is 6 and 6. 6 times 6 is 36. 6 plus 6 is 12. So we have x plus 6 and x plus 6. You can write that as x plus 6 and x plus 6, or you can write it as x plus 6 squared. Oops. Either way works. Okay, first thing we look for here is a GCF. There isn't one. Oh, shoot. And there's a number out front. Darn. So we are still doing our x factor, but this time we multiply, so we get negative 18x squared, and we bring our middle brother to the bottom. The question is, hey, what multiplies to negative 18 but then adds to a positive 7? And that's a 9 and a negative 2. So we're going to use our first term and our last term still. I'm going to take this 9, so 9x. Whoops, sorry. I'm going to take this 3x squared and pair it with the 9x. I'm going to use this negative 2x and pair it with the negative 6. This is the factoring by grouping part. This is the part you guys are really good at. So we look and see what we can divide out. All right, I can divide out a 3 and an x. I'm left with an x plus 3. And over here, I can divide out a negative 2, and I'm left with an x plus 3. My parentheses match, so I know I did it right. 3x minus 2 becomes one parenthesis, and x plus 3 becomes another. All right, over here, I look again. Is there a GCF? No, but I do see that I have these two numbers that I'm going to need to multiply. So I end up with negative 60 and an 11 on the bottom. This was a tricky one to think of. It's a positive 15 and a negative 4. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take this first term, 6x squared. I'm going to group it with this 15x, then use this negative 4x, and this last term, negative 10. All right, I'm going to look at what I can divide out. And here it is a 3x. I'll be left with 2x plus 5. And then over here, it's a negative 2. So a negative 2, and I'll be left with a 2x plus 5. My parentheses match. Hooray, I did it right. 3x minus 2 in one parenthesis, the GCFs, and 2x plus 5 in the other. And that is it. You are done with your Chapter 11 study guide. I hope it helped, guys. I'll see you soon.